So today we are here at Jones BBQ in Raleigh, in downtown Raleigh, and I'm here with the general manager, Thomas Von Cannon. So today I just wanted to kind of ask some questions about the restaurant and about your career and why you enjoy this business and doing this job.
Sounds fun.
So just to kind of tell our students about the company.
Sure. Yeah. So we opened up this location in 2021. So kind of in the middle of COVID. So it was definitely a fun and interesting experience having a new restaurant during that time. So this is the second location. The first location opened in 2015. But in terms of kind of our heritage, it goes far beyond that. So kind of the mothership of where we come from is a restaurant in Ayden, North Carolina called Skylight Inn. And that opened in 1947. So by no means are we new to barbecue and how we cook our barbecue. So we do whole hog barbecue, and which is probably the least profitable and least efficient way of cooking barbecue. So you can do barbecue many different ways with many different methods, but we do whole hog barbecue, meaning we literally put a whole hog on the grill versus certain cuts, which would probably cook a little bit faster. And we do it over oak coals, so we don't use anything. We don't use any electricity or gas, which obviously using those methods speeds up the process. So, but we do it the way it was done in 1947. So we choose to do it, the best way we feel to cook a barbecue, to cook whole hog. So, in terms of positions, we obviously have front of house or back of house or heart of house, as we like to call it. So front of house. So we have different positions, but what we've done here is we've cross-trained. We've done a lot of cross-training. So, and what I mean by cross-training is we have different positions, like I mentioned, but the same person is trained in every position. So as opposed to having one person who only knows how to be a cashier, or one person who only knows how to be a bartender, all of our team members, for the most part, are cross-trained through all those different positions. And also catering. Catering is a big component of what we do. So front of house, we have cashiers, bartenders, expediters, which an expediter is someone who basically, as the kitchen is finishing the plates, finishing the food, the expediter kind of puts all those checks together and makes sure the food goes out correctly and at the same time, as best as possible. And then back of house or heart of house, we like to think of it more in terms of departments. I mean, if you think about it much more specific than that, it can be a little overwhelming. So we think of it in terms of, we've got smokehouse, we've got prep, and then we've got our main cook line or kind of kitchen team, and then we also have our dishwashers.
So you are the general manager. What kind of got you to this position, and what is your career path then?
Wow. So I've been in restaurants since 1998, so a long time. So I've been in restaurants for 20 something years. It's all I've ever known. And actually my first job was working at a golf course, basically just spraying down the golf carts, and then also I would work in the snack shop, and I would always look forward to working in the snack shop. So I don't know, maybe it's something genetic. It's certainly not anything that has to do with my personality, because by nature, I'm shy. Growing up as a kid, I was never outspoken. I was never outgoing. So the beauty about hospitality, and obviously I'm in restaurant, but I think you can expand it to hospitality, whether that's hotel or hospitality. It can push you into areas that maybe you didn't think you would be do well at. So, we've got a lot of team members where this might be their first job or their 15th job. And, especially for those newer team members who are new to food and beverage or hospitality, I like to say, obviously interacting with people, that's the most challenging part of what we do. But lean into that, and, if you play the actor enough times or long enough, you eventually become the part. You eventually become, the part that you're playing. So that was true for me. So in terms of, my trajectory, I just came in and worked really hard. I am competitive by nature. So, I came in and, within a few weeks I was a shift leader. And then a few weeks after that, I think I was promoted to a manager. So probably within, but I started I started in the kitchen. I started just entry level position, but I wanted to set myself apart, in how I work. So when someone would call out, I'd step up. When someone would, slack off, I would work harder. So eventually people saw that, and I was promoted. So yeah.
So you said a lot about the hospitality and kind of thinking about customer service. What do you look for in an employee that will be good at doing hospitality and customer service? What are some of the traits and skills that you kind of look for, or at least see some of it in them that they can build upon?
Yeah, so I think, gosh, that's a big question. But I think a lot of it begins with the initial interaction. The first time I meet the person, the first time they meet me, are they smiling? How is their posture? Do they seem interested or disengaged? Do they seem like they want to be here, or is this something where like their parents are just making them get a job? So that's kind of like the surface level answer. But I think going deeper, eventually you want to get to know that the person has some level of self-awareness. And what I mean by that is, knowing who you are and knowing how who you are affects other people. Obviously, we don't live in a vacuum, and it takes a lot of people to do what we do and pull it off the way we pull it off. So you've got to work with people, and that's kind of the other beauty of working in hospitality. Is like, man, if you've got some rough edges, working shoulder to shoulder with someone will eventually kind of like round off those edges. So someone who's self-aware more often than not would be a good team player, because you obviously know how your behavior is affecting others, and you do something or you don't do something, and then someone reacts, and then you respond by hopefully not doing or doing the thing that you didn't do or did do to upset someone. So definitely being self-aware, just kindness. We can train anything. We can, restaurants, there's recipes and there's processes and there's systems. So, even in terms of our smokehouse, all the different nuances that kind of live in that area, I can take someone, if you want to learn, I can take someone pretty quickly through the process of learning how to cook our food in the smokehouse.
What experience, or would you hire someone with no experience? But if you do require experience, what experience would you want them to have, an employee that you're looking to hire?
Yeah. So we have hired team members with no experience, but in terms of experience, again, it's less about experience and more about attitude. But say I was going to hire someone who's in high school, which I've done. definitely some sort of volunteer or leadership experience. You know, I don't think you necessarily need to have worked at a barbecue restaurant for us to hire you. That's not the case at all. But I recently hired a team member actually, and she this was her first job, but she played sports in high school, and she had done some leadership activities. So definitely something along those lines, for sure. But again, in terms of experience, I mean, I feel pretty good about our training process and kind of the culture that we have created here, where it's kind of one of those things where if there's a lot of restaurants out there. There's a lot of ways to operate a restaurant, but we really invest in our culture, and if you really work on the culture and work on people who appreciate the culture eventually kind of feeds on itself, and it becomes kind of like another manager where it just kind of confines those behaviors.
So with saying that you have hired people in high school. Not all of our students are going to come work at St. John's or work at a restaurant. But what kind of career advice would you give a high school student looking to try to figure out their career path?
Yeah. So, gosh, let me transport myself back to young Thomas. Oh man, wow, that's a great question. Yeah. So, again, kind of speaking from my own experience, things that I wish I had done. I wish I would have taken advantage of maybe more of the programs that were there in high school. In terms of serving and volunteering. Those character development, and that's kind of where I would say focus on building your character. That's obviously those are big blocks to work on, but those activities that are going to sometimes force you out of your comfort zone. If you're an introvert like I was, like maybe get into drama or public speaking, something like that. Obviously it's hard, but in terms of perseverance and those life skills that are going to carry you far, doing hard things is a good habit to build in your younger years. So and read a lot. Read a lot. Like I was a reader in school, and then in my 20s, I don't think I picked up a book for about a decade, and now I've kind of come back into reading books, and it's been really great. I've learned a lot about myself and a lot about how to interact with others. So I would say push yourself, go push yourself outside of your comfort zone, and then read. Go outside of cultures that are like yours and histories that are like yours, and just learn. Because again, once you kind of put all those pieces together, where you've got the perseverance and you're going out of your comfort zone, and then you get into situations where you have to interact with people who are not like yourself, you've got a greater appreciation for those people.
So it definitely sounds like developing your self-awareness, serving, leading, getting those character traits that when we talk in the classroom about soft skills like communication, teamwork, taking initiative, all of those kind of things are what really helps in any industry, specifically also the hospitality industry. So switching gears a little bit, just a little bit more about the business. What is there any room for growth? Like if you come in as a cashier, how quickly or how easily can you go to grow in the business, get promoted, that kind of thing?
Sure. So I'll speak to the industry generally, and then kind of more to us specifically. But generally, it's really person specific. in my experience, I've worked in a couple of larger chains, but mainly my experience has been with smaller restaurants. 1 to 4 units. I tend to appreciate that because I have worked in the bigger chains, and I feel like you kind of get lost in the shuffle. But also too, those big chains, it's really person specific. If you're the right person and there's an opportunity, if you're in the right place, meaning if you're working at a place who is able to observe and cultivate talent, you're going to get the opportunity. But again, it's how are you performing day in and day out? I mean, it's kind of one of those things where I've been doing this a long time, and to do it consistently good for a long time, I haven't seen many people do it. It's a grind, but it's a fun job. But then for us specifically, yes, there's so much opportunity. Coming in as a team member, an hourly team member. I mean, again, we're always looking for folks to step up, and there's no secrets here. So if someone comes in and they want to learn, they might work in front of house and they're like, oh hey, I'd love to learn a little bit more about what goes on in the smokehouse. Absolutely, because that's only going to make our team better and stronger. Here kind of sky's the limit.
So what are some of the benefits that you have when you become an employee here?
Yeah. So again, here specifically, I mean, we've got a fairly competitive pay structure. Our front of house team members, we do like a flat hourly wage plus tips. So they're in the mid 20s an hour, $20 to $25 an hour for front of house team members, and then in our kitchen, I think we start around $16 an hour, somewhere in there. I've been that guy that I'm applying for the job, and the person I'm interviewing with, they're like, oh well, how about this amount? And it's like it's less than what I feel like I'm worth. And then so we don't, obviously everything's based on experience and attitude, but yeah, we don't underpay our team members. I mean, like it's always frustrating me where you ask for a raise or you're given a raise, and it's like small increments. Like we don't do that. Like I give dollar raises. I mean, it's just like, what are we doing? So we, again, going back to our culture, like we really try to show appreciation.
And so do you have I don't know if it's for full-time or part-time or both, that do you have insurance or any kind of like PTO, like any kind of other kind of benefits that they have?
Yeah, we sure do. Yeah, we offer insurance to full-time team members who have been with us. I want to say after 6 months. So unfortunately, one of the hard things about being a small business is that insurance is just crazy expensive. So we really do extend that to full-time team members after 6 months.
Okay. There are a couple things that you had talked about in terms of the challenges of working with people, and that it's hard work. What would you say are some of the rewards of working in this field?
Oh gosh. I think for sure, some of those guest interactions, the fact that, we've got stories, like real stories of, where, we've just shown our kindness and our hospitality, and like, not knowing the situation that the other person was navigating, and learning after the fact, like, wow, you were so kind to me, and this had just happened or that had just happened. And then selfishly, we cook really good food. So selfishly for me, walking the dining room and seeing people enjoying what we do. I got here this morning at 5:30 in the morning. So, the fact that, I'm here early, starting the fire, getting the smokehouse going, and then, a little while later during lunch or dinner, walking out and seeing someone enjoying something that I had a hand in preparing, that's really rewarding. But then also on the team member side, those stories where, it's just like investment over time. We talk about here, I talk about with the managers that, just relational capital, making those investments, it's, I don't know, sometimes I feel like I'm Michael Scott from The Office. I mean, I don't know if anyone's going to get that reference or not. But, we celebrate birthdays, and you go to Harris Teeter and you get you get a birthday cake, and it's free to get someone's name on it, and you get their name on it. And what does it cost? Obviously, not much, but what does it mean? On Saturday, I had a team member. I did that for his birthday, and it was really cool because he pulled out his phone and he took a picture. He's like, "Oh, my mom's gonna flip out when she sees this." I'm like, "Oh man!" Not only did it impact him, but maybe it might have been. He's a younger team member, so, and his parents, he's here. He goes to seminary here in the area, so it's just man, maybe his mom is thinking wow, I'm glad someone's kind of looking out for my son when I'm not there. So yeah, it's stories of developing team members. That's always fun. So it's rewarding. But I will say sometimes you have to look for those rewards, because there's times where team members are late, or they don't handle a situation the way they should have. And, it's teachable moments, as we like to call them.
Just a little bit more about the company and your specific process. So if somebody wanted to apply for a job, what does the application and interview process look like?
Yeah. So application process, we actually, if you go to our website, samjonesbbq.com, we've got an employment tab where you can upload your resume. So that's one avenue. We still do old school paper applications. So if you're in the area and you want to slide by and grab an application, we'll give you one of those. One word of advice, and you would be amazed. But if you are really interested in getting a job anywhere, it's not just specific to us. Restaurants specifically have kind of busier times than not. What I mean by that is if you walk into our restaurant, this has happened so many times. If you walk into our restaurant at 12:30 and you're expecting to get an application and then have an interview, we're in the middle of lunch, and then same thing for dinner. So I would say if you're really interested in getting a job somewhere, and we're talking restaurant, I think 2 to 5 is probably a good time to pop in and maybe have a conversation with the hiring manager. If you want to do a face-to-face, but like I mentioned, we do accept applications online as well. But the interview process is, as you all can tell, I'm fairly long-winded, but we like to have a conversation with the people that we might be working shoulder to shoulder with. Asking open-ended questions, about experience, about likes, interests, all that good stuff.
What kind of expectations do you have for the employees, and is there a dress code? So expectations in terms of
30, 60, 90? 30 days, 60 days, 90 days?
Maybe, yes.
Yeah. So, again, we like to try to break things down and kind of like bite-sized increments. So, we do have a training process, and the expectation is, at the end of that training process, and like I'm kind of crazy about my systems. Like you can ask ask the other managers here. But I came up with this training process, and pretty much at the end of it, you would be a fairly competent team member. So expectations as far as training, again, involvement, engagement, those, like asking some questions, that's always nice to see. But then, in terms of expectations, after 30 days, definitely, getting very, very competent. We like to say around here, you've got to get confident in your competence. So obviously, once you kind of get that competence, knowing what the job is and how to do it, you develop some confidence in that. So there's a lot of different situations that someone here might come across, and that's another beauty of our industry is, and no one day is like the other. So, but again, having that engagement in the process, and then 60 days, 90 days, continuing to grow. That not we say around here too. The ideal team member is hungry, humble, and smart. So hungry is kind of looking to what's next. Having mastered the initial training process. Wow, like hey, like how did I learn how to do this? Or hey, could you show me that? And that's always great to see. Like I've never turned down anyone who's like, hey Thomas, can I learn how to do this? Like absolutely. And then the humble part is, obviously there's a fine line between someone being, confident in their competence and just being hard to work with because, they think they know it all. And, you've got to have a certain level of humility to be able to take the training. Like I've hired team members before, and we're in the training process. They've been with us for 2-3 days, and I'm like, man, this person knows it all. Like, wow, like that's amazing. Like, but you can't tell them anything, and that situation never works out. So having a certain level of humility, and what I always say when I hire someone is like, hey, like your resume, your experience, that's what got you here. But and not discounting that, but you've got to understand our systems before you can integrate your experience. It's like me going somewhere that doesn't cook barbecue, and I'm talking about barbecue and trying to bring those systems over that are non-transferable. So and then smart is obviously we could go all day on that, but that's intellectual and emotional. More so emotional than intellectual.
And so just kind of closing out, what would you say makes this, this business and particularly this restaurant, the best that you've worked at?
Oh gosh. Definitely, I think the same answer for both. It's the people. It's the people. It's the stories. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. When you have a job, when you work somewhere, you're normally going to see those people more than you see your own family. And so it's extremely helpful to like the people that you work with. That doesn't mean that you're always going to, but it's like same thing with your family. But I will say, like the restaurant industry, again, like when I hire new front of house team members, it's like learning relational skills in a crock pot or a microwave. I mean, meaning, like, oh wow, like I've got to interact with someone, I've got to work with someone. Like, okay, multiply that by 10, because you're working on a bigger team, and then also too, you're guest facing sometimes, where meaning you're interacting with guests. So it's definitely, my wife and kids may disagree, or may agree. But it's definitely shaped me into just a more caring person, more empathetical people. And if you come across enough different people, you have to empathize with those people. Like it's like your empathy reservoir is just deeper. Like it's just deeper. Like you can feel someone's story faster. But it's a grind. it's a grind, but it's fun. It's fun. So yeah, I think that would be my answer that I'm going to stick with.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. And like I said, our students it's always great to hear from different employees and employers around this area as they hear about new jobs and new businesses and that they may be interested in the future. So thank you.
Yes. Come eat some barbecue.